Hey everyone! Welcome to the 5th video of the series. Today we're gonna have a detailed look into the range object and some of its properties. So without further ado, let's get started. So what is the range object? A range object can be a single cell or a large set of cells. And referring to a range always goes with double quote. Let's assume we want to refer to the range A1 to D2. Coding this in the Visual Basic editor would go something like this. Range, open brackets, open double quotes, A1 to D2. Closing the double quotes and closing the brackets. Let's have a look at it. So we'll go to the Visual Basic editor. We'll click on our current module and we'll start the sub range select. As usual, I just open my sub with the name of the sub, press enter, and automatically the end sub mention gets written by the by Excel. And I'll write range, as we said, A1 to D2 dot select. So we'll test our code with the F8 function, which is the step through function, and we'll keep an eye on the range in question, A1 to D2. Going line by line, and as suspected, this seems to be working okay. So we'll go back to our spreadsheet and we'll continue. It is possible to refer to a range by its name, defined in the name manager function. And one way to do that is to select the range, insert a table, we'll press OK. Now we can rename our table. Let's put a name, let's say headers. Enter. An interesting thing to notice here is that when we created our table, this table tools popped up. This little tab, which is basically a new tab that only applies to a table. This is where we renamed our table headers. And we'll use our newly named table headers in our code. So instead of typing range A1 to D2, we'll type just range headers. So let's go back to our Visual Basic editor. And let's reset our code. And now we will write range, open the parenthesis, headers. Close the parenthesis. And actually, I should not forget the brackets. Dot select. So let's test this. And before testing anything, we probably want to unselect the table to make sure that the code works as intended. And we'll go back to our VBA and start testing the code with the F8 function. Alright, let us try this. Going through the code line by line, and yeah, seems to be working fine. One more time. So as usual, we'll go back to our spreadsheet and continue. The cells property is another way of referring to a range. And it takes two arguments, a row number and a column number. For example, if we were to refer to cell C2, we would say something like cells 2, 3, which is the second line and third column. And we won't take this for granted, we will test it one more time on the Visual Basic editor. This time we'll create another sub called sub cells select. And we will write cells, open the parenthesis, 2, 3, close the parenthesis, dot select. Let's now test this. We'll step through the code. Cells23.select, and as expected, the cell 23, which is C2, is selected. So let's continue. You can also combine range and cells to refer to a full range. Let's say I want to refer to this range right here, from J16 to L17. That's also possible, and here is how it works. So basically we will use the range formula, except instead of referring to A1 and D2, we will refer to J16 and L17 using the cells formula. And this goes like this: range, cells, 16, which is the number of row, and 10, which is the number of the column for J16. Same goes for L17, the 17th row and the 12th column. So let's type this in our Visual Basic. Let's create, as usual, another sub. Let's say range cell, and we'll write range cells 16, 10. Yep. Cells 17, 12. We'll close the parenthesis and write dot select. So now we can test this. We'll step through the code, have a look at our spreadsheet, and yeah, it seems to be working fine. So let's continue. We'll talk now about a very useful and powerful tool property, which is called the offset property. The offset property allows you to move around the spreadsheet. It takes two arguments, a row number and a column number, just like the cells property. We could write something like range B21 dot offset 1, 1. And what this code would do is that it would select the range B21 and it will move one cell across and one cell down. And it also works the other way around. So if you select the range D22 and offset with -1, -1, it would select the range D22 and move one cell across on the other side and one cell above. So let's test this. Going to our Visual Basic editor, we'll create a new sub, offset property, and the way we'll do it is that we will first select our range B21 dot select, after what we'll use the active cell property dot offset 1, 1 dot activate. And I didn't mention it here, but you need this dot activate method to do the job. Without it, Excel will keep the offset movement in memory, but will not actually apply it. So let's see if this works. Stepping through the code, range B21 select, active cell dot offset 1, 1, activate. And as you just saw, it worked just fine. So let's continue now and see if we can push this offset property a little bit further. The offset property can be used to insert a value in the destination range or cell. For example, we could write something like range B21 dot offset 0, 1, and then equals, between brackets, the value that you want to insert in the destination range. In this case, we're writing the hidden powers of the offset property. So let's test this as usual. We'll open a new sub, insert with offset, and we'll write something like range B21 offset 0, 1 equals, opening brackets, the hidden powers of the offset property. And I've added one too many F, closing the brackets, entering, and let's test this. Stepping through the code. So range B21 offset 0, 1, the hidden powers of the offset property. So now we start to understand and realize the well, as I wrote just here, the hidden powers of the offset property. It's a very valuable tool that you will be probably using a lot during your Excel VBA journey. Later on, when we are combining variables into the mix, the offset property can really do wonders. And this is something we will see in the next video when we will discuss variables. As you saw, we can do a lot of things using one object, which is the range object, and one property, which is the offset property. And there are plenty of other properties that we can use with the range object. There's the count property, the address property, the column and row properties, the phone property. And we'll have time to go through each and every one of them in the following videos. So that's going to be it for today's video. In the next one, we'll have a look at variables. And more specifically, we'll first define variables. We'll see how many types of variables you can have. We'll talk about a different concept, which is the arrays. And to test our knowledge thus far, we'll do our first milestone project. Thanks for watching. If you like the content and want more of it, be sure to hit the subscribe button.